Good afternoon, my name is Jonathan Colby. I'm Music Director of the Farmington Valley Symphony. Welcome to our concert this afternoon here at St. Joseph's. We're happy to have you here with us. I'd like to take this time just to thank all of our donors and businesses listed in our program book for their ongoing support of the orchestra. I'm going to take a few minutes just to talk about the first piece that we're playing this afternoon. And that's Tchaikovsky's Romeo and Juliet. Now, this work has three versions. The third version and final version is the most well known, but the first one has a very sort of unique history. And I think we have to think of these three versions of the Shakespeare setting as really three different interpretations of that work. This was suggested to Tchaikovsky by Belyakev, and he was a well-known music critic and musician in his own right during Tchaikovsky's time, and he was sort of obsessed with Shakespeare, and even more so obsessed with Romeo and Juliet. And so he pressured Tchaikovsky to write this and to set this the Romeo and Juliet to music. But Tchaikovsky took about 5 months of stalling, and after many abusive letters from Belyakev, he finally got down to writing it. And when he sent this first version to his friend and mentor, it was not well received. Belyakev did not like it at all. He couldn't stand the introduction. He felt it was too Haydn-esque in its opening chorale, and he urged Tchaikovsky to revise it. Nevertheless, the first version was performed by the Royal Society of Music in Moscow, and Tchaikovsky afterwards went out to dinner with his friends, hoping that they would, praise and encourage the work. However, the conductor of the orchestra that evening was embroiled in a very public and salacious scandal, which far overshadowed the dinner conversation. And Tchaikovsky wrote in his diary that he was distressed that his friends cared more about scandal than they did about Romeo and Juliet. Nevertheless, the work was revised 2 more times before the final version became the most popular. And between the first version and the final version, it shares about 87 bars of identical music. The rest is either new material or a different setting of the same thematics. So please enjoy Romeo and Juliet, the 1869 version. Our next set here is a collection of Browning poems set by Amy Beach. Amy Beach was a female American composer in the middle of the 19th into the 20th century, and she was from the Boston area, and she was the most prolific and well-known of women composers during her time. And she was a very respected solo pianist in her own right, as well as a composer of both orchestral, choral, and art songs. Now, an art song really gets its tradition from German Lieder, and they're different from, say, extracts from an opera, that they are really standalone pieces, and they are based primarily on poetry or poems written specifically for them to be set to music. And they really came into their own in the 19th century, and this was due primarily that pianos became very affordable and very accessible to everyday people. And it was a mark of social class and status if you had a piano in your home, in your front parlor, and then you could host concerts in your home, saloon concerts or home concerts, and an art song was a wonderful way to bring in maybe a guest singer, or for your daughter or son to take music lessons, one of them to play piano, and one of them to sing. So the art song's prominence really came about by the technological innovation of the Industrial Revolution, when pianos really became very affordable. It's also how many people just learned about music to begin with. Most people couldn't afford to go to a Symphony Orchestra concert. They learned first about major works through the piano editions that came out. And Amy Beach wrote about 150 art songs during her time, and she was commissioned by the Browning Society in Boston to set 3 of his poems to music in acknowledgement of the composer's, of the poet's birthday. And they draw their inspiration two from a set called Bells and Pomegranates by Browning, and the third from a separate work. But the first of them is The Years of the Spring, and the days at the morn, mornings at 7, the hillsides dew-pearled, the larks on the wing, the snails on the thorn, God in his heaven, all's right with the world. And that was taken from Pippa's Passes by Browning. The second, the most romantic of them all, and some say sometimes most melancholy, is love but a day, and the world has changed. The sun's away and the bird estranged. The wind has dropped and the sky's deranged. Summer has stopped. Look in my eyes, wilt thou change too? Should I fear surprise? Shall I find anew? In the old and dear, in the good and true, with the changing year. And that came from a poem by called James Lee's Wife by Browning. And then the third goes back to that first set from Bells and Pomegranate. This one is the most waxing and lyrical of them all. I send my heart up to thee, all my heart in this my singing, for the stars help me and the sea bears part. The very night is clinging, closer to Venice streets to leave one space, above me whence thy face may light my joyous heart to thee in its dwelling place. And that came from an extract of In a Gondola as part of Bells and Pomegranate. So now it's our great pleasure to welcome to the stage Elizabeth Miller. And also I'd like to mention that the edition that we're using today is from the Women's Philharmonic Advocacy Group, and the orchestration we obtained actually from Chris Trotman, his string arrangement for orchestra of the Amy Beach setting. And we were glad to highlight the Society's work and this orchestration that is being prepared and promoted by the Amy Beach Society. So please welcome to the stage Elizabeth Miller, soprano.
The years of spring, and days of
10-minute intermission here while we reset the stage for the Strauss. Thank you. In your concert programs, you'll see Ritter's poem that describes the work that we're about to perform for you. Strauss was what we might call sort of a mover and shaker in the development of orchestral repertoire, but it's also sort of how music continued to evolve and depict different parts of the human psyche. And I don't want to go too far back in the realms of history, but I think it's important to understand sort of the predecessors to something like Death and Transfiguration. We're all familiar of sort of the standard symphony, 4 movements, sort of a fun and engaging opening, a reflective middle second movement, a scherzo or a waltz in the 3rd movement, and then a boisterous, rambunctious finale where everybody knew when it was the end so they could applaud. And that's sort of a very layman's term to way to describe a Farmington symphony. And then you had a concert overture, which was its own kind of separate piece. Maybe it was drawn from an opera or a ballet, but it was attached, in general terms, to another work. And so music orchestral music had these sort of 2 strands. There was the symphony and then, say, the concerto, and then there were the overtures that came from the operatic tradition. And these 2 worlds sort of kept very separate from each other. That there was operatic music with orchestra, and then there was symphonic music with a symphony or a concerto. And the overture was maybe kind of the bridge between those 2 worlds. What we begin to see in the 19th century is that composers begin to sort of start to think outside the box, and we get what maybe are called program overtures or program symphonies that have a theme or a subject heading. So, for example, Beethoven's 6th is called the Pastoral Symphony. It evokes certain pastoral and shepherd and Arcadian landscapes and pictures. And then you get a composer like Hector Berlioz, who is in a world of his own, partly due to certain substances which he is experimenting with. And he kind of pushes everything aside and writes something like Symphonie Fantastique, which depicts a whole artist's life and the struggle between love and going to very dark and depressing places. And that's kind of a turning point in music, because suddenly all those human emotions, which for the most part have been kind of siloed to the operatic world, suddenly you can have a programmed symphony or work like Symphonie Fantastique, where you actually can depict a story in multiple movements with no singing, but there's themes, there's idée fixies, there are little sort of nuggets of musical moments that depict certain emotions or people. And that begins to really kind of open the door. So we get to someone like Strauss, and at this point, he's not opening the door, he's kicking the thing down and dragging the orchestra to it, perhaps kicking and screaming along the way, but he's going to get them there. And so something like Death and Transfiguration is a true tone poem. It is a orchestral poem that it's just like reading a poem, say, by Browning, but without words. It is depicting a story or a human journey through music. And so there are 3 sort of distinctive musical themes that describe the artist's life and death and his sort of ascension into what lies beyond that. The first you'll hear is dee-da-dee-da-da-da-dee-da, and that will come back a few times. And then we have this sort of agitated moment to depict struggle, yum-bum, ba-ba-ba-bum-bum, ba-ba-ba-bum, and it's very rhythmic. And then we have this heroic ending, which some could interpret as the Transfiguration. Da-dee-da-da-da-da. And you'll hear each one of those 3 distinct themes throughout this. And if you want to, you can follow along in the literature printed in the concert program. But I'll make one final note, is that Strauss wrote this first in a conception in his head, and then he asked Ritter to take the music and find the text to it, to create the text. So in this case, the cart came before the horse, in a very crude explanation. That's maybe the way to think about it. So really what you're seeing here is the evolution of symphonic music, which continues to evolve and continues to be pushed. Think of today how much symphonic music is involved in motion pictures, in video games. In countries like Japan, cell phone ringtones are considered a major form of composition and highly respected. So the orchestral work is really continuing to evolve and adapt as time moves on. But this tone poem by Strauss is really part of that critical evolution in orchestral repertoire. So all that said, please enjoy Strauss's Death and Transfiguration, this musical journey of human emotion and the life of an individual.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.